All righty. Here we are, ready for the GEO monthly live stream for May 2024. As always, I am Josh Davis here with Chris, and we are going to talk about a couple of different things today. One that's on the thumbnail is wealth inequality and how that shows up in worker co-op and solidarity economy organizing. The other, though, I thought maybe we could start out with, since I think that'll be a little bit shorter, and that is kind of talking about the effects of the pro-Palestine, pro-Gaza protests going on right now, and the effects that might have on future organizing efforts. We've seen a number of groups, I guess, and people just kind of threatening folks who are involved in the protests. With some people have been, removed from their academic studies, or people are being threatened without loss of job or loss of job opportunities in the future. But Chris, you had a kind of positive example that I think we wanted to kind of lift up a little bit, and so.
Oh yeah. Well, this is that grantor, the Conan Foundation. Yeah, when people were starting to mobilize more, it was cool to get an email from them saying essentially, hey, we've heard that like grantors are censoring people who are trying to be in support of the Palestinians. And I want to make it very clear that we're not gonna punish y'all if that's what y'all want to do. And they're pretty supportive. And when I saw that, I was like, oh man, that's pretty cool. Because the group that they're supporting, that I'm in, like, we're all pro co-op, and we're trying to do more co-op stuff. And since then, I've begun to see how important that was. Because I've had a neighbor here in Chicago who's really part of the whole grant world, and they're saying that a lot of the grantors that they're coming across in Chicago are basically supporting Israel's genocide of the Palestinians in one way or another, and not wanting to deal with people who support the Palestinians. So yeah, I mean, it makes me wonder, how what's the ecosystem look like these days? Are people feeling the pressure to have to, support the genocide, or be quiet about it? And for what it's worth, supposedly there's certain grantors in Chicago who that have a presence in Chicago, who are just sending their money to Israel. And so I'm wondering if that's something that's going on in the co-op world, where funds are disappearing because they're going straight to supporting the genocide. Though, what are we doing to support the Palestinians? What can we do? I remember early on we were talking about, like, purchasing some things from Equal Exchange, because they have some Palestinian products there. I mean, I think at the time they're kind of sold out, but I should look into it, see what they got at the moment.
Hard to imagine they're restocking, right? Anything from there at the moment. So I mean, that's a real the situation of course is tragic and atrocious. And we may see in the future, I think, that we'll see how things play out. But it may have repercussions for people who are participating in the protests now. There may well be some kind of blacklist that they get name on. I know, protests I've been involved in the past, it's always kind of an issue. You put yourself out there. So yeah, here we go. We've got the just the equal exchange page, I take it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it does look like they have those products, maybe. They don't say sold
Sweet.
out.
Add to cart.
There you go. 6-pack for
Cool.
$85, actually. Pretty good deal. Um, okay, so there is one thing you can do from here apart from attend whatever local protests are going on. I have seen social media posts from a couple of Palestinian people saying that they do at least appreciate that, to know that there are people in the rest of the world who are not, supporting this. And so, yeah. But the Conan Foundation, Chris, that was
Yeah.
you want to,
Yeah.
can
There.
you spell
That's.
that? Is it Konen or
It's
Conan Barbarian or
CONANT. Let me see if I can find their
oh,
website and
Conan?
I'll share it
Okay.
too.
Almost like the
Oh.
Barbarian.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know much about. I don't know too much about the Conan Foundation, but yeah, this looks like them. Let me share. Let me share that. Here we go. Yeah, I believe that's the website.
Okay,
Yeah, that's definitely them. Yeah.
nice. Okay, our Conant, CONANT. All right, great. Well, with that, can move on to the main topic, which is wealth inequality and how that affects groups of people trying to organize worker co-ops or any other type of co-op or any type of solidarity economy project, whether that be a time bank or a babysitting exchange or anything like that. So, um, Chris, this was something that you wanted to explore a little bit. Did you have anything that you wanted to start with? I'm just gonna put you on the spot again.
Yeah, I mean, well, I was just thinking about how like you've brought this up in the past. It seems to be something you've come across quite a bit too. And before we started, you were talking about it as well. It seemed like with the whole working relationship that people have with that one person. Um, but I think, um, man, it touches upon a lot of specific topics. Um, One, I feel like the first thing that I've seen that was first mentioned when we started doing these podcasts, I mean these live streams, was how you mentioned that a lot of the co-op movement is influenced by wealthier sections of society, um, and how that does inform like the entire structure and like how people try to get co-op started, how it affects like inequality and risk and the lack of safety nets for people who are putting more on the line. Um, but and we can go into all of that. But I think when I was thinking about it, one of the things that came to mind for me was how uh, I think specifically donors. I was thinking about donors and having chances to meet donors one on one, and how like so bizarre it is um to be able to engage with folks who are like helping in a way that somebody might consider to be a lot of help, but not really having any type of um meaningful relationship with them. And it's still kind of a new thing for me, and I still haven't grasped what it means. um and part of it, I don't like it. I don't like it. Kind of, I think it digs up some of the same emotions that I've had when I've been in situations where people um, want to work closely with others, but just see them as a source of we just see them as a resource, essentially.
Mhm.
And I've pushed back against that. Like, nah, if I'm going to organize with somebody, I can only see them as a human being, not as a resource.
Yeah.
Um,
And not as a victim to be, a helpless victim that needs to be
mhm,
saved. That's that Lilla Watson quote that I bring up all the time because I think it's super important. Is that she said, if you've come here to help me, you are wasting your time. If you've come here because
mhm,
your liberation is bound up with my liberation, then we have work to do together. And that's what a lot of times, when there are groups of people that I've been involved with where we're um, the wealthier folks or people with more resources in the group, sometimes will kind of have that attitude of they're doing something like philanthropic by being involved in this group, because it's not something that's just strictly focused on growing their own personal bank account, or increasing their own personal net worth. Um, Whereas, a lot, the rest of us are there to like meet needs. Um, and, and I don't, and especially, I guess I've, run across this dynamic in like with co-op developers or people who are more in the nonprofit world, kind of having that sort of attitude. And it's similar to like when I used to volunteer quite a bit at the homeless shelter in Missoula, um, at the Poverello, when it was right across from my apartment building. And it was like the attitude of like the executive there and some of the staff people who really look down on the people who are coming there for services. And you know it's like, oh, I'm the real person, I'm the full person who's here to like help you poor thing that needs a hand up. And it's so condescending, such a condescending attitude. And and it easily creeps in. And I think it's really um, damaging, frankly, which is why in my own like personal life, I definitely prefer organizing with people from my own socioeconomic class, than trying to expand too much. But of course, when you're looking on the hunt for financial resources, you're going to have to, you know, sometimes deal with folks, who have more and maybe are coming at the project with a different attitude. That's what I think you're kind of, getting at with talking to donors, and it's just kind of weird when you feel like there's not this relationship of equality. Um, it's yeah, I think it's problematic, and I think it's invisible often to folks higher up on the totem pole. Um, like for instance, I just last Friday went and saw my sister get her master's hood. She's did a master's degree, um, and went to the university where I studied, got my degree, my bachelor's degree, and but don't spend any time, haven't spent any time there in a long time. And going back and going into like the new nice education building, and just being in like a very kind of like, even though it's just the university, it's not like super high class, I still felt out of place. Like I was underdressed, like I'm not, and I've had the same kind of feelings at a co-op conference. I went to the Association of Cooperative Educators conference. I actually gave a presentation there on a project we were working on, and I'm sure all those people are there, or the vast majority of them are anyway, are great people, and they're all in the co-op movement. But I felt out of place coming from like working in construction for a decade, and then going and showing up at this university for this conference, and everybody's in business casual, and like their business casual is like the nicest clothes that I have. Like it's me dressed up as good as I can get. It's just like their basic, business attire. And it's such a weird feeling to be in that space. And yeah, I don't know. It's just like to feel like you don't fit in. And then to have like I said, it seems like it's kind of a little bit invisible to people who are higher up. Like they don't feel the awkwardness maybe so much. I don't know.
Yeah, and then I mean, I don't get the feeling like I don't fit in. I'm sure most people would. My feeling is I don't want to be around that. I'm not
Yeah,
interested.
yeah, that
I'm
too.
not,
It's like these are not my people, you know.
yeah, I'm not. I'm good. You know, even if like those folks are cool, whatever. It's not. I'm good in the places that I'm at. Um, and and maybe there's bridges that can be built, but I prefer a different area. Um, I mean, it's a lot of the co-op stuff. Honestly, like I just kind of think about like there's a really good like pamphlet by the Black Autonomy Federation, and in it they just explicitly say like we organize with poor Black communities, and compare that to the co-op stuff, and it's like you can tell that doesn't really seem to be the focus.
Mhm.
Um, uh, and many can't. I don't think many can make the claim, and there's some shady stuff that I've heard that happens in the background and stuff, and there's like no way in hell they could ever make that claim. Um, but yeah, I mean, when I was thinking about this, I think initially I was about this topic. I was thinking about like the rich folks that get involved in stuff, um, and how it impacts even like the solidarity economy world. Um, but I think it's even useful to talk about like inequalities among broke people trying to do stuff together too.
Oh,
So if
yeah,
you
yeah,
want to talk about that too,
yeah, for
it's a
sure.
good topic.
Um, um, yeah, so I did want to say, I guess, kind of one more thing on that. I thought of this when you mentioned the group specifically, saying very specifically we're organizing with low income Black people.
Hmm.
Um, the kind of spaces that we organize in and the kind of vibe that we create, like in our whatever kind of organizing space it is, or whatever our meeting, or even like a webinar, I would say. But like there's a vibe, and whatever kind of vibe there is going to determine who you draw in, and you know who feels comfortable there and who doesn't. And what I've noticed in the co-op world, I mean, like every conference I've been to has been at a university campus. Like, again, even as somebody who, you know, grew up in a basically middle class household and went to university, even I still kind of feel a little bit like I don't really belong there at this point in my life. And so, and just like in the same way, if have your organizing meeting in somebody's backyard, in the low income part of town, and and there's and that's where you have it. There are people who are going to feel much more comfortable going there than to the university, and the people who would feel comfortable going to the university for their you know conferences and whatnot are not going to feel comfortable, probably. So, like, personally, I think it's something that we kind of don't think about, and a lot of the people who spend time on organizing are college educated, if middle class aspirant, if not middle class, and coming out of that. And I feel like that kind of, without intending to, like, those kind of the things that those kind of people are comfortable with, who are my people, by the way, kind of just become like the norm. And then people who don't feel comfortable like that, coming from more blue collar backgrounds and don't spend any time at all on the university campus, like, are not going to feel comfortable there. So yeah, so there's my last bit on that. But
Yeah, I mean, a lot of a lot of people are at war with local colleges and universities. You like what's what happened? Like in Chicago, the University of Chicago, which is like the incubated Keynesian economics or something like that. Man,
mhm.
they've been people have been fighting that university for years. They're like a big, humongous landlord. socially cleansing those neighborhoods. They got like a humongous police force. Um, I forgot, somebody was saying that they recently tried to. I think the University of Chicago recently tried to get Chicago Police Department to help clear out the protesters in support of Palestine, and well, they didn't really need it because they got like a humongous police force on that campus, and they cleared them out. I think they were able to hire a bunch of other like paid, um, yeah, what do you call them? Like paid security forces or whatever.
Hmm.
I suppose
Yeah.
they got that. I mean, I don't. I mean, there's always like a lot of people love the colleges, the universities, right? But that's from the perspective of like you as a consumer of those institutions, not the people who actually live around them or getting encroached by them. And
Exactly.
yeah,
Exactly. And I think a lot of, people doing like co-op development are much more likely to, be somebody who was a consumer of those services that the universities provide rather than um, somebody who's, been negatively affected by living in the neighborhood. I know I don't want to, I can't remember which university it was. It was one of the, it's one of the ones that, whose names you're familiar with. I think in the Northwest, or Northeast somewhere rather. There's have been fighting with the community for a long time over, the fact that they don't pay any property taxes. And so, the city is strapped for cash despite having this, massive, university there with a, multi-million, if not billion-dollar endowment. Um, so, so yeah, University of Chicago, not Keynesian economics, by the way, neoclassical economics, the Chicago school. That's the real neoliberalism. We have Chicago to thank for that. Chicago economists. Um,
and by the way, like a lot of the colleges, because there's some people like they will defend the colleges, they'll take a bullet from, but a lot of these colleges they're not cooperative. They're not they're not egalitarian. Um, they're little tyrannies. I remember I have a friend who was at this one college, and she was a professor, and I think the administration asked them like what would they like, and it was kind of like a loaded question, and like the professors were talking together, and she said something very controversial, and that was she wanted academic freedom, and then none of the professors had the guts to back it. um, yeah.
yeah. So, yeah, keep in mind some of these things. And it's not to say like every college or university is bad or evil or you shouldn't have anything to do with them or anything like that. But it's just, being aware of, the spaces that you're choosing to do your organizing in are going to draw certain types of people and they're going to drive away certain types of people. Like we've had where I live, we've had a couple of permaculture convergences. Um, and I've thought about this town that I live in, this little town of Hot Springs, could be a pretty good, decent place to do conferences. There's the hot springs and it's nice and scenic. But we don't have a lot of a way in the way of amenities, but so there wouldn't be, say, nearly the hotel rooms available that people are used to. But man, if you're into like throwing up a tent and you're down sleeping, in a tent in the back acre for a couple of days while you're at the conference, got you covered, right? Like we could do a conference here super cheap, but the type of people who would be, want to come here and rough it for a couple of days for a worker co-op conference is going to be, I think, probably a whole different crowd than the people who go to the national conferences and whatnot. So yeah, but at any rate, talking about another form of inequality that can show up and hinder us, Chris, as you mentioned, the kind of inequalities between people of the same income category, between people of the same socioeconomic class. Certainly run into that as well. Living in a rural area, a lot of retirees, there are certainly a lot of the older folks around of the kind of baby boomer generation who don't have much of anything in the way of monetary income, often living on $800 to $1,200 a month in Social Security, and but they do have property, right? They do like own a house that they were able to buy back in the 70s or 80s when it was affordable. So they do have some land. That's kind of the people I end up working with, and those inequalities are also cause a lot of issues in trying to organize around those dynamics. So yeah, so specifically, I guess, when you brought that up, Chris, that's what I've run into mostly, is issues of working with people who none of us have a whole lot of money to speak of, but somebody's got a lot of, the land resource, and it becomes very difficult for them often to really be able to make that into a co-op thing, usually because they put so much work into it themselves already.
Well, hey, so
yeah,
we don't got to jump into this state of the sector report. Yeah, just getting it ready, but I just thought about these different stories where you have like the person that's got all this wealth trying to be the seed of a co-op, and I'm not sure if any that you shared resulted in a co-op that thrived or that lasted. Have you have you heard a story of
no,
an instance?
I don't know any that have started off with that kind of, like, one person with a vision for a co-op, and then they recruit people, and everyone I know that's successful has been started as a group vision.
There might be one in Chicago that started with someone who had a lot more, but I should verify that before I mention it.
I mean, you could maybe count conversions in there. We've got, I guess, plenty of those businesses that started out as sole proprietorships and have converted to worker co-ops. But I think that's a little bit different, because even then you still have to, before you cooperatize it, you've got to have the buy-in of all the employees, and you're starting with that group of people. So, so yeah, when it's one person who's like, hey, I've got 10 acres, and I've been reading up on earth bag building, and cob building, and I know how to make a rocket stove, and we can have some goats and stuff, and they got their plan, and we can do it cooperatively. Like, I've had that on more than one occasion, and I've often tried to help out or get involved, and I've learned, no, that's always a bad idea. So
yeah, I gotta check in with someone recently who was kind of like in a situation like that, where it was all white folks that it was mostly white folks that purchased this property, and of all the people that were living on the property in this land, the only people who didn't have actual ownership of the land were Native Americans. And I was like, hey, what's going on here? We can't be doing that. I got to check in. It's been a few years, but anyways, did you ever read this report when it came out, Josh, the State of the Sector report?
The 2021 State of the Sector. I probably looked at it, but I don't remember anything particular about it.
Did you? Is it the latest one? I've kind of
It
did a Google search.
may well be. I'm not sure. I thought we had 2023 or something come out, but anyway, what was it about this that caught your eye?
Well, if I recall correctly, they did that they had that information of like the lowest paid worker and the highest paid worker in the co-op, the ratio or something like that.
Oh, the pay ratios.
Yeah. And I think it was 2-to-1. That's pretty interesting.
I mean, that's
Not
pretty
too
good.
bad. Not too bad.
No, that's not bad at all. I don't remember. You can click on that and see if they got in there, but
No, you gotta like put all your information in, and then you
Oh, to
can download it.
download it,
I'm not
right.
doing that again. I've done it like 5 times.
um, yeah, no, that would be interesting to know. I didn't know. I hadn't seen any like consolidated data. I'd only seen just anecdotes from different co-ops. But yeah, 1 to 2 is not bad. That is within reason, I think. I am on the record of saying, I don't think 1 to 7 or 1 to 10 is within reason. Um, and that's certainly something that will come up in organizing a worker co-op or anything where you've got people doing work. They're going to be getting paid for it, and different types of work. There's going to be disagreements over who should get paid how much for what and what's worth what, and should you all get paid the same on a flat hourly wage, or should some people get paid more for certain types of labor. Generally, I mean, I'm of a very egalitarian mindset, and think in general, unless there's some very good reasons, people should probably be making a flat hourly wage. Yeah, and to the extent that it's that there is some disparity that should be based on need, and probably more than anything else.
Hey, check. Let's compare it to what the AFL-CIO's
Oh
executive
my
pay
God. Well,
watch.
this is the problem. See, this is what I don't like doing this, because this is setting the bar incredibly low. This is like saying, well, let's see what the worst people in the world are doing. Now, are we doing better than that? Oh, wow. Like, we're doing way better than them. But it's like, that's not the relevant metric.
Mm.
It's like, um,
Somebody else is making that same point about the problems of like comparing things to the worst examples, and it's a way to escape accountability. Or
oh, it totally is. I mean, I have this problem with a lot of things in our society where
Mhm.
people try to make a big deal out of it. It was like when Google came out, even just years ago. I always thought this was weird when Google, had made their motto or whatever, "Don't be evil," and everybody's like, "Oh, wow, they're great." I'm like, what? That's the absolute minimum. It's not even "don't be bad" or "don't be a jerk." It's like, "Don't be evil." Like, well, don't be evil. Like, you got to try to be evil. It's not "be good." It's like if you go to a wedding and somebody's like saying up there, like saying their vows, and the husband's like, "And I vow to never beat you so bad I put you in the hospital." Like, you know what? Like, what? That's not a good thing.
You
Like,
know what? Be
pat me
good.
on the
That's
back
a
for that.
that's $1 million idea right there. Be good. You better send that over like Nike.
Yeah. And then, of course, Google couldn't even keep up with "don't be evil." But it's like, somebody bragging about, oh, it's not, yeah, we're better than 272 to 1.
Or 9,416 to 1.
Yeah, yeah.
What is that? New Skin Enterprises. I better it's not click links. I don't know what they lead to. All right.
Yeah. I mean, and to me, one thing that occurs to me, and that I've noticed in conversations, is that generally, if the people who see themselves or are used to being at like a higher end of a pay scale, tend to be more in support of having pay scales, with whereas those of us who tend to be on the bottom of the pay scale don't necessarily think they're such a great idea. And that's, another thing to look out for. And of course, our society is kind of set up to make it difficult to get around these things. Certain skills, will charge you a whole bunch to get the education you need to, obtain those skills. For medical stuff, for accounting and whatnot. And so people end up with a lot of personal debt, and maybe there's that justifies a higher pay rate. But I think we need to, it should be very clear, even in situations like that. Like, it's like, okay, if we're gonna, like, you get a higher pay rate because you have student debt that you had to obtain to get this skill set that we're now making use of, okay, but do you get that forever, or just until your student debt's paid off? Or do you also then, try to make sure other people are, you can share these skills as much as possible? Um, so yeah, but um, as Kathy Stats had said, quoting somebody whose name I forget, the co-ops face two big problems, which is greed and ignorance, right? And so it's and I think that's, like, those things kind of come together when we talk about wealth inequality in co-op organizing, because we're all encouraged to be greedy. Like, that, in my view anyway, like, our society just straight up encourages everybody to be greedy. And to the extent that you're not, like, okay, you're being a good person, but you don't really, you're not expected to do that. And then just, ignorance not only about, cooperative values and ethos and stuff like that, but ignorance of how the society that we live in is actually structured. And if you're doing okay, or you're doing well in this society, it's not because you're such a great person or such a hard worker. It's because you're in a fortunate place in our society, which, works by sucking value from the bottom up to the top. And so, you're benefiting from that. And not to put anybody down for doing that, like, most people, it's not like you got in that position with any kind of malice, but that's still the situation. And so understanding that, and not just thinking, oh, well, in the normal economy, my job as the whatever paper pusher pays more than your job as the guy who pushes the broom. Therefore, in our co-op, it should be the same. No, that should not be the same. So yeah.
Yeah, one thing I've been thinking about more in regards to the topic is how it can also be very hard to understand what someone's wealth is. Because, like, you can have someone who, like, their income for the year is like $5,000, but they're also the child of a millionaire or billion, right? And
Right.
there's like all this stuff that they get, and their income
Mhm.
is only $5,000. Yeah, I always suspected that was the case, and I've kind of been coming. I think I confirmed that. And so, yeah, I mean, that's another thing, though. So maybe some of the people who are showing up to these the college places, what if they're like in that situation, or I don't know. I'm sorry, no. What if some people are just trying to, like, blend in, and they don't have that? Or sorry, I'm a little tired.
um, yeah, no, I mean, there's definitely, like I said, just like with the people who have, like, very low income, but then they've, got some land that they, purchased or inherited or something, a house they inherited, or, or even, wealthier, folks, especially younger people who might have, a lot of family wealth, but it's locked up in some trust fund or some assets that they don't necessarily have easy access to. But, this is why I think, really, in order to do, like, if we want to be serious about co-op organizing and solidarity economy organizing, I think we all need to commit to really rethinking our personal economic values that we've been instilled with. And maybe this is, different in different, communities within our country and different, groups of folks. But at least, for my part, like I said, I think that what we do in our society is we instill our children with all of these excellent cooperative values about sharing, about kindness, about not demanding more for yourself, for that, unless there's enough for everybody, kind of like, you can bring a treat to the class if there's enough for everybody, kind of thing. Otherwise, you don't get any. And that, like, and then when, children grow up and leave the house, we'd say, like, all that out the window. If you have more than you know what to do with at any given moment, and you decide, oh, I'm just going to give the rest of it away to other people, my friends around, people look at you like you're crazy. And so we need to really commit to, like, rethinking this. Like, what we teach our kids is correct, and we need to live more like that, as adults. And I think that to the extent that we can't get over that, what we end up doing is we have an idea of success in the co-op world that looks exactly like success in the rest of the economy. I've got 6 figures in my bank account, and I go on vacation to someplace groovy every year. Like, that's kind of the idea of success. I mean, for a lot of people. And I think we have to be shooting for more than that, and understanding that that was never sustainable. I think that's the other part of it. Like, we should know now that the like American middle class lifestyle is not sustainable, even for the people who have it right now, much less for a whole bunch of other people. And yes, we can bring the billionaires down and everything as well, but we need to, like, it's not possible for everybody to use as many resources as the typical middle class American household uses. Like, the earth just doesn't have enough. Like,
so that's is that where that is it diversity, equity, and inclusion, the attempt to, like, make that one of the 7 co-op principles? I guess it'll be principle 8 or something. Do you think that's relevant to all this? Or I don't know, I don't know how much traction that has gotten.
I mean, I think Jessica would be the person we'd want to have on to talk about this. Honestly, I don't know how it's being implemented or used, or what they're talking about specifically in the co-op movement. I know there's been I'm mostly familiar, I'll just admit, with kind of criticism of the DEI narrative from the left, from, like, people at Black Agenda Report and stuff like that, who basically say how DEI is being implemented is as a way to make the exploitative capitalist system look nicer, like put a nicer face on an exploitative system, and to convince people that if the person at the top of the food chain, who's making 200 times what you do, looks like you, then that's good for you somehow. And it's like, and as a white guy who has always been at the bottom of the totem pole and has always had somebody look like me at the top, it's like, no, it doesn't make any difference at all. I'm sorry, the system sucks for the people at the bottom, regardless of who is at the top. And so, but I know that is definitely not what DEI in the co-op world is about. And we do, like, it's, trying to push back against a lot of just, cultural stuff. And we're, like we've been talking about, part of DEI, I would think, like, if I was in charge of doing some DEI, it would be like, okay, where are we holding our meetings? Where does, who feels comfortable in these spaces that we're holding our meetings in? Who doesn't? Maybe we should mix it up a little bit, that kind of stuff that would, so, and I know that in the co-op world, I've heard, and I think this comes from the Canadians as well, not just the DEI, but adding a J in there for justice, and they prefer JEDI or Jedi, which which I approve of. I mean, because you're just like ripping off, George Lucas. You just, and you're making use of his meme or whatever. So it's like, all right. And I've got a Jedi Knight certificate behind me on the wall. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, do they still have those? Did you ever see that the lightsaber competitions? They were like gonna be it was like a sport. I don't know if they still have it.
It's just like, glowing wooden katanas or something, or what?
Yeah, I think. I mean, hopefully
I
it
mean,
wasn't something from like the Onion.com. I mean, like the Onion satire. I think it was real though. Like they're just real, like Jedi lightsaber competitions. That it's a sport.
right? Yeah, whoever gets an arm cut off first loses.
No, I think you just get banged by a
Yeah,
plastic wiffle bat type situation.
yeah. Um, yeah.
Now you have to join it, Josh. You gotta prove yourself.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm an honorary Jedi Knight. I don't think all the Jedis have to fight with lightsabers. I don't think that's a thing necessarily. I've been known to throw some tomahawks, but I've never done lightsaber fighting.
uh, a light tomahawk, yeah, a saber.
Uh, yeah, that could be a thing. It's probably in the extended universe somewhere. Yeah. So, other issues with wealth inequality.
Well,
So,
well, one thing, like you mentioned, like what are things that you would do to implement like more egalitarian relationships, like choose to where you're meeting or whatever. I feel like one thing that comes up with me and my friends is uh, talking more about who's paying rent, who's not paying rent. What's the size of the mortgage, or like, is it fair that someone's in this rental situation and that someone's about to pay off their mortgage?
like getting into people's personal finances and just being open about
Yeah,
that stuff.
yeah, and that's tough though, right? Because that probably in some situations, I don't know, it could be illegal to be talking about stuff like that. It's kind of weird.
Well, and
And
people
I
just
feel
don't
like,
like to. Yeah.
yeah, and there's like, and it's tough because there is like that embarrassment. Like I remember one time, I was talking to a tech worker. And he was supposed to be like an anarchist and all that, and he did not want to talk about how much money he made. I was like, dude, there's no way in hell that you're making less money than me. No, and that person was making way more money than me.
Yeah, it was probably like
It's
200K or
funny.
something. That's why I didn't want to.
Yeah.
I was shocked. I saw on Mastodon somebody who is a tech co-op person, and they were saying, I've been thinking about maybe like in our bylaws we should have some kind of set a maximum wage so that like nobody can make too much money. And they wanted to set the maximum wage at $300,000 a year. And I was just like, who needs $300,000 a year? Like, but to this person, that was them being not greedy, right? Like putting a limit. And it's just like our ideas of what enough are so different. And I mean, I guess even if you're living in the Bay Area, that or something, that seems like an awful lot. But we have these these differences to where like, yeah, 300,000 a year may sound like limiting yourself to that may sound like I'm kind of making a sacrifice, to some people. And then to others of us, it's like, no, you don't understand. That's not at all. So,
Hey, so look, I'm going off topic, but it's the French Fencing Federation. They officially recognize lightsaber dueling.
And so what is an official lightsaber made out of? Is it just like a fluorescent tube?
Is it regulation? Is that a regulation lightsaber?
I want to use one of the two-ended ones like Darth Maul had.
Hey, that's a lot of skill. I recently learned that Duel of Fates. Well, no, I read something saying that the Duel of Fates, the battle between, or the fight between Obi-Wan Kenobi, Darth Maul, and
Qui-Gon.
Liam Neeson.
Qui-Gon Jinn.
Nah, just kidding. I knew his name. it's called Duel of Fates because it determined the fate of Anakin going to, like,
Oh,
going
okay.
to the
The
cool
dark side.
side or the whack side. I forget what the dichotomy is.
Depends on your point of view, which is the cool side, I think. Um,
They're all pretty whack though. Sorry, what were we talking about?
I don't know. Hokey religions, ancient superstitions.
Oh, the $300,000 max.
Yeah, I mean, there's just
What would you
these kind of
do?
disconnects. I mean, I piped up and said like that seems like a wow, that's like a whole lot of money, like that barely. But I mean, again, is just find out like you're coming at things from very different views, which is why I think like if we're going to be like if we're actually going to make headway, people like him as well as people like me need to like really think about okay, like I, we need to be thinking differently about how we're doing our economics and distributing our
Hmm.
resources. And for me, and I've been saying this for a long, long, long time, I feel like we forgot how to say enough in this country, and
Hmm.
nobody
Yeah.
knows what enough is anymore. And it's because of our, our advertising culture and all that. But when that's one thing that traveling, to Nepal, into a very, seeing what, a lot of people in the world, like the, conditions they live in and the amount of wealth and resources they have access to. Um, and,
Hmm.
then coming back and realizing like, wow, we spend a whole lot on meaningless nonsense. And we, that we don't even think about, spending, people, if you're the type of person that has the resources, do it. If you're upper middle class person, like you might drop $60,000 on a kitchen remodel, not think anything of it,
Yeah.
you know, and that's just normal. And then for
Yeah.
others of us,
Yeah.
it's like, that's crazy. I built a school in Nepal. I paid for some people to build a school and run the school in Nepal for a couple of years for like $8,000. And so when I see that, it's like you could have had like 5 schools,
Hmm.
like, if you knew how to spend your money.
But
And
now, but your kitchen would be so last year.
exactly. You would still have that kind of cheesy early 90s color scheme, and it's just, and you need the stainless steel refrigerator. Um yeah, but it's like, that's our whole society is kind of built on this never having enough, kind of constantly stoking people's desires. And I think that we need to make our desires for other things, like recognize that we've been kind of brainwashed like this, and
Hmm.
and and uh, conscientiously reject it. And
Are there any? Have you ever heard of any agreements among co-ops for like the right? Because the economy incentivizes ridiculous industries, and certain industries get more money. Have you ever heard of any
Mhm.
agreements between co-ops, or like, okay, we get these absurd amount of income. We're going to redistribute this to other co-ops that should be getting similar incomes. Ever heard anything like that?
No, I mean not in the U.S. As we know, in the U.K. they do have the solid fund, but that's not really a surplus redistribution mechanism. It's more of
Hmm.
just a like revolving loan fund. Um,
Hmm.
but for actually like redistributing surplus between co-ops that are doing better and ones that aren't,
Hmm.
no, there's not. It would be nice if there was something like this. This is one of the reasons why I thought it would be a good idea for worker co-ops to get in the habit of owning preferred shares in other worker co-ops, so that you kind of get this interlocking of the balance sheets, so that there can be some flows. But again, that's more on a more kind of standard financial uh, relationship basis, and not really like a solidarity basis. um,
Hmm.
yeah, I mean, it seems like that's something that maybe the Federation could do, or some group like that, would be, um, you know, you would, just need to have some way of communicating between people and between co-ops. Uh, yeah, I don't know. It's a big ask because then you're trying to coordinate between lots of different businesses all across the country.
Mm-hmm.
It require like people to be open with their books and stuff like that, and of course,
Mm-hmm.
don't necessarily want to. Not everybody wants to do that. Um, yeah, I mean, big coordination problem, but ideally, yeah, I think that would be, you know, that would be something we could do. The but I know, I mean, there are a lot of worker co-ops that are just, scraping by. The worker owners are
Mm-hmm.
not even making a living wage.
Mm-hmm.
If you're working in home healthcare, it's like nobody working in home healthcare, co-op or not,
Mm-hmm.
is making a living wage. So, and then, but I think we have many fewer co-ops that are like Isthmus Engineering, manufacturing, where they're making good money, they're making real good money, and they're paying themselves good salaries, as commensurate with their engineering and um, machinist job descriptions. But and if we had, but it's like I don't know how many of co-ops we have like that are throw off a lot of money that could conceivably, with the right mindset of the members there, get redistributed. Um, but really, I mean, I don't know. Maybe there's space for like an organization of egalitarian worker co-ops, like the radicals among us, who would like commit to saying like, okay, um, if one of us is having struggling, we'll all try to pitch in to help it out, and something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Because there are plenty of people in the worker co-op movement who are not nearly as radical as don't have views nearly as radical as ours on these kind of things, and
Mm-hmm.
don't particularly have a problem with wealth inequality per se, or
Right. Mm-hmm. But $300,000, I don't know if I can maintain a yacht with $300,000.
well, that's the thing. Or maybe send your kids to private school and go on your yearly vacation to the south of France, like just that you've become accustomed to. um, yeah, I think that's an issue. But yeah, I would like to see more co-op organizing going on in spaces that are, I don't know, a little more rough around the edges, that aren't quite so hoity-toity, aren't so, don't feel like I need to dress up maybe to come inside. That was one thing I saw, like at least Cooperation Jackson, one of the things that they had going on for them, they did were able to procure a building. I think they got more than one, but they had one where they were doing organizing, and that definitely looked more like the kind of place I would feel comfortable in, abandoned strip mall, and we're just like in one of the big rooms, like, okay, this is appropriately seedy. All right. And real.
Sweet. An abandoned strip mall?
I don't think it was abandoned. I mean, they bought it, but there wasn't, but yeah, it was a strip mall, I think is what it had been.
Oh, okay. Wait, yeah, yeah. Oh, okay. Sorry, I was thinking about a regular mall. I was like, I'll bring my scooter in that.
Not that cool. Although it seems like, keep hearing about the end of malls. And some of us in GEO, we had a creative writing group for a while that we started, and it kind of fizzled out. But the story that we started writing in that group was about a housing co-op that was next door to an abandoned mall that had like become like
Asbestos.
housing to a bunch of like squatters and different, like different things going on there. But yeah, I mean, so apparently we think abandoned malls would be a good place to to organize in. I mean, it's just so much indoor space.
There was a mall getting shut down near here in Chicago, and I think that a bunch of people came together to give it a final farewell. I don't know what's gonna
Yeah.
happen with the vote.
Did they like blow it up or tear it down?
I don't know. It's probably gonna get turned into a VA or something. Who knows? That's what
Oh,
they've done. And like, there's this one mall in San Antonio. A large chunk of it became part of the Veterans Administration with awful disability parking or handicap parking, whatever,
oh,
however it's called nowadays.
yeah, yeah.
Like,
Well, that's no good. Um, yeah. So I don't know. As we were talking about this, though, Chris, I mean, we're at an hour here, so maybe we'll here to
mhm,
wrap it up. Um, you know, my thoughts for like the most valuable thing that people who have a lot of resources, who are, you know, feeling bad about the world and wanting to make it better and thinking maybe they should, you know, give back, some of the more philanthropic individuals. I really think the best thing that you can do with your money, if you're somebody who just received a bunch of it, is just give it all away to somebody else. Don't try to don't like don't think that you have to be the one who decides where it goes. Like we were joking, like I don't know, why don't they just get all their money, put it in, cash it out $100 bills, put it in a big pile in the middle of the room, and leave, and let the rest of us who are resource starved figure out what to do with it. Um, and yeah, so that's my totally serious suggestion for.
yeah, I saw this situation. I saw the situation where people were like just donating money. It was interesting how they were donating it. Like they didn't know the locality, and they're just like donating to um, different entities that seemed good. And I saw it, and some of them like, yeah, those are some good efforts. But a lot of them, I was like, man, I don't know any of that. So I don't know how I would navigate that. I've never had wealth like that. Um, but hey, I have an interesting wealth redistribution story. I don't know who did it,
Yeah,
but
let's hear
so
it.
so it was here in Chicago in 2020 with the like whole uprising, and well, I was talking to my friend, and because I had given him a bunch of money recently because he had just like gotten out of prison and he was trying to make ends meet, and he was calling me to tell me that he lost his wallet that his money was in. He felt like really bad, but like shortly before he was gonna call me, somebody was driving down the street here in Chicago. I forgot what street it was. It was an avenue, and they were just throwing all this cash out, like hundreds and twenties or whatever. And and he said that like everybody stopped, even like a bus driver stopped the bus to get
Hmm.
out and gather cash. And so I'm guessing that it was somebody who like busted open an ATM because a lot of ATMs went
Oh yeah,
missing in
yeah, yeah.
Chicago in 2020. I'm guessing they had busted open an ATM and were redistributing the wealth in that
Do a
period.
little,
It was,
yeah, Robin Hood bit. I mean,
yeah.
hey, whatever works.
I wasn't there to see it, but I felt like I was. It was such it was so amazing hearing it. Plus, I didn't have to pay my. I didn't feel like, oh, I gotta give my friend more money that I
Right.
don't have. Somebody else was able to replenish it. He really needed that money. He really, really, really needed that money.
Yeah. Yeah. Fun story. Um, it's probably not a scalable way to do wealth
Hmm.
redistribution. But if somebody wants to do that every now and then, I'm not going to say no. Um,
Especially if they're targeting Bank of America, Chase. Nah,
yeah.
they're probably insured anyways. Nah, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. But I mean, but that's good. That whoever that person was throwing the money out the window, I think had the right attitude about wealth.
Hmm.
It's here to be spread around. So that's
And
yeah. Hmm.
if I were to guess what that person's income level was prior to that, I would say that they're probably broke. I don't think they were a rich person.
No. Oh
But
no, no rich person goes around throwing money out the window. You don't stay rich if you do that. That's obviously somebody who's broke. Yeah, so it reminds me, maybe we can leave it on this. Kali Baba in Nepal, this old this Hindu holy man that I he's the one who got me involved building the school. He his teaching on this, his one like economics teaching that I ever got from him, right on the money. I think, and what he said is, money is like water. Money should be a flow, not a stock. Right? It needs to keep moving. It's when you try to build it up and pool it up, it's like water. Like you keep it in a storage tank too long, it goes bad. It's like it's got to keep flowing around. And so, like, we need to, I would encourage people to try to have that mentality more, and think about how we can keep our money flowing around, between amongst each other, that our money will work better in a solidaristic way if it flows between each other, rather than everybody's trying to get someone just like get a big tank full of it, and suck as much out. So again, kind of a mindset change that I think. All right. Well,
I'm
with that,
escaping to the one place that hasn't been corrupted by capitalism. Space!
What's that from?
that is from the Street Fighter movie. That is Tim Curry as M. Bison. Yes.
That was Tim Curry?
It's Tim Curry. Yep.
That's not the
Frankenfurter.
let me see.
You don't know?
That's the one Jean-Claude Van Damme?
Yeah, Jean-Claude Van Damme is in there. He's playing Guile, I believe. But yes, no, it's a classic Tim Curry, one of my favorite actors. And yes, his whole "I'm going to the one place that has not been corrupted by capitalism, space," that's classic. That's right up there with his Frankenfurter lines, which I also know probably 90% of. Oh, I don't know. You might get canceled nowadays for repeating some of that stuff. Pretty good though.
Wait, was Tim Curry in Street Fighter?
Yeah,
That's not,
I swear that's from the Street Fighter movie.
Raul Julia?
Oh,
because it was like the Addams Family.
You're right. You're right. It is Raul Julia. It's not Tim Curry. Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness.
You're welcome.
I'm wrong. You're welcome for making me look stupid. I could get away with that. No, I can like see the face though. Is that not Tim Curry? No, it is Raul Julia. All right. I don't know. They kind of look.
That wouldn't be bad if it were Tim Curry. He was I saw it recently in Congo.
In Congo, I haven't seen that.
Yeah. For a long time, I wasn't sure if the gorilla, or what, I don't even know what species it is. I wasn't sure if it was like animatronic or human. The same thing with the gopher in Caddyshack. I don't know, like that's animatronic, right? Like,
yeah.
What is it? A puppet or?
Definitely pre-CG. So I don't think they trained that guy.
But I found out that the gorilla in Congo, Amy, they were actors that were in suits.
Mm-hmm.
I've always wondered. You should check it out. It's not that bad. It's Tim Curry's in it. So was at the beginning the dude who was in Evil Dead. He was in the beginning.
The
Bruce Campbell.
Bruce Campbell, yeah.
Yeah, he's in the beginning of Congo. Okay. It's such a silly movie, man.
Is that no, that King Kong? Jack Black was in King Kong. Okay. Yeah, not much of a movie guy, but I don't know. I found that, I don't know. Wait a minute. No, okay. The label I have on this sound clip is Tim Curry is escaping to space, and maybe I've got the movie wrong. Wait a minute. Wait, we got to figure this out. I'm just going to play it again
I'm
because
escaping to the
It's
one
probably
place
no
that
movie.
hasn't been corrupted by capitalism.
Red Alert 3?
my bad. It's
Space.
from a game. It's from a game. It's
I'm
not
escaping
okay. So I'm
to
like,
the one place that hasn't been corrupted by capitalism. Space.
see here. I thought it was in a video game movie. It's in a movie that's in a video game. It's in like a video cutscene in a video game. My bad.
Oh, I think I played that one. Red Alert.
I certainly did not know, but you
Command
did.
and Conquer. It's not Metal Gear Solid, but
I played mostly Jezball when I was a kid on the computer, and Minesweeper.
you know what? At this Command and Conquer, yeah, I played Command and Conquer before. That's cool that Tim Curry was in it.
Yeah, it was Tim Curry. I knew it was Tim Curry. I had it wrong. I saw him in that like military outfit, and I was like, "Is this has got to be like the Street Fighter movie or something?"
Bison.
Yeah, wasn't he in that? But no, that was Raul Julia in the Street Fighter movie. You're right. Bunch of meaningless, random pop
Actors and
culture
actors.
facts in my head that just get all mixed up and confused with each other.
Yeah, I've had that. I wish I had time to play a game like Command and Conquer. That was a cool game.
Well, maybe someday we'll start up the GEO gaming stream.
What's I'll play Metal Gear Solid on a GEO stream.
Oh yeah, is that have some? Is there some like some lore in the Metal Gear Solid that we could connect to co-ops or solidarity economics or?
Absolutely not. I mean, I don't think.
Who cares?
Just okay, fighting the Illuminati. That's about it.
Hey, sure. I mean,
are co-ops trying to fight the Illuminati,
right? Yeah. Well, I think we're definitely at the end of the hour. Thank you, everybody, for watching. I saw we did have some people there. We got a thumbs up. Thank you to whoever dropped that. And we'll be back next month, second Monday. And until then, peace.